Hello, Buckeye fans, and welcome to another episode of the Bucknuts Happy Hour. I'm Patrick Murphy. We are here at the Media Hotel in Atlanta, joined by Tim O'Malley from our Notre Dame site at 24/7 Sports. We're going to talk Buckeyes. We're going to talk Notre Dame. We're talking national championship. Tim, how you doing?
Pretty good. That's all that matters. Talking national championship. Didn't see that coming in week 2.
We'll get to that in a second. We're going to enjoy Bud Light while we do this. Hopefully no one yells at me for cracking this out here. But
get it in there. I think you're all right.
Yeah. Well, I brought this one down, but they don't need to know that. All right, Tim, let's get into it because there's a lot to talk about. You brought it up, so we'll start there. I asked you about this in our written content, which is up on Bucknuts if you haven't read it already. But week 2, coming off of that week 1 win, Texas A&M, huge win.
Yeah.
Then you go into week 2. I don't know how to put it another way. An embarrassing loss for Notre Dame. Kind of take Buckeye fans through what that was like.
I think it's important that at least once they separated themselves from it, about a month and a half away, they started to own it.
Yeah.
They started to say, we've been playing with pressure. We've been playing for the playoffs since week 3. We've been on an elimination game since week 3 because they really were. The schedule trended down this year. They didn't have Ohio State. They didn't have Clemson. USC wasn't Caleb Williams' USC that they run into. They just didn't have what they normally have. A&M doesn't replace those 3 teams. So when you lose to Northern Illinois, at that point, you're thinking absolutely perfect. And will that even be enough?
Yeah.
Of course, it usually is the way it breaks. But it was somewhere around the last time we were here in Atlanta, the Georgia Tech Notre Dame game, where you realized they handled that team pretty easily in all 3 phases. And you're like, their schedule's favorable unless they pull a rivalry game letdown at USC.
Sure.
They should be in the playoff, and they just started playing better and better. So the key was, it's not just that you win those games. You have to go out and drill teams that you should. And I think the one thing that changed when they lost to Northern Illinois was they became a team there was no room for error. They weren't going out and beating teams like Virginia by 7 points, which you'll see from Notre Dame. Sometimes they just went out with scorched earth on everybody. They're not great teams, but that's what you're supposed to do to them. I think Freeman really changed his approach too, because there was no nonsense involved whatsoever after that loss. It was single-minded focus, and it helped them. I think they would have dropped a game somewhere along the way if they had won that game on a missed field goal. Northern Illinois just has to miss the field goal. And it's not the most embarrassing loss in Notre Dame history.
Right.
They make the field goal. So Notre Dame loses the game. I think they might have dropped another one somewhere along the way, and who knows what that would have done to the team.
What would you have put the odds at as you left the stadium that day at them being here?
I thought they would have lost again because their offense wasn't any good. Okay. Like the defense had one little flaw in that game, and it kind of came up for the first time in the Penn State game, although this is because 5 starters have been injured since then. But they were fully healthy in that Northern Illinois game, and I thought there was too much of a push. I thought Northern Illinois got a little bit too much of a push. It's not like they had a good day running the ball, but when Notre Dame had to get the ball back, Northern Illinois converted twice. And you're like, this is not what I expected out of this defense. So I thought they would drop another one just because the offense looked so disjointed. We all thought Riley Leonard was hurt. Riley Leonard should have been replaced in that game. We brought this up before to the coaching staff, actually. He injured his left shoulder at the end of the half, and they didn't take him out. I feel like Steve Angeli would have gone in and won that game. But,
looked good when we saw him last time.
He's always looked good when he gets into games, and it's Northern Illinois, too. He's not coming in against Alabama or Ohio State. So I thought that was a coaching mistake, but they haven't made many since.
You mentioned Marcus Freeman and kind of that change. Just from hearing him the 2 years before this, when Ohio State and Notre Dame was played, I can sense some of that when we've heard him on the Zoom. We heard him the other day at the airport. What is different?
If you think about it, when he was hired, we tried to warn Notre Dame fans because everybody was really excited. He's the polar opposite of Brian Kelly, so everybody's super excited. There's no way Marcus Freeman, first-year head coach, can be as good of a coach as he will be in 5 years. And now he's accelerated to year 3. It's great. If you're a Notre Dame coach and you've won a national title, you won it in year 3, by the way. There's some bad luck there for Buckeyes fans if you're wondering. Or if they don't win, it's bad luck for Notre Dame fans, I suppose.
I guess, yeah.
But, I just think it's his program. He really preaches, and he practices it too on game days. They want to be aggressive. They want to be the more aggressive team. They're going to take chances. They've gone for it on 4th down 26 times. They're going to go for it on 4th down. They don't care where they are. It could be the 30-yard line. As you saw against Georgia.
Yeah.
They're ready to go for it there on 4th and 3 from the 19-yard line.
Ballsy is the word.
Yes, he is, and he preaches it to the team. He stays aggressive. They're really aggressive. It's been fun to watch. It's fun to see a team be aggressive and not back their way into wins sometimes.
It's funny because he obviously, Ohio State player, played under Jim Tressel.
Yeah.
And you can see
Jim Tressel,
yes. And you can see some of the Tressel ball stuff with the way they lean on the defense, special teams, that type of stuff.
Run the ball.
Yes, but then you have that stuff that Tressel didn't do.
Right.
And so have you guys talked about where that comes from, that aggression in those situations?
Yeah, I don't think it comes from Coach Tressel, but he will never tell us that because he is
Tressel did that every once in a while.
Yeah, he has the highest of all respect for Jim Tressel. So I think it's just the way he feels that he feels he needs to play the margins a little bit, and he thinks he can. It's not steal possessions or steal wins, but it's I want to be the aggressor at all times. If I'm going to say that, we have to show that on the field. I want to be able to he wants to challenge everything is his other mantra.
Yeah.
And that means I'm going to start a left tackle that's a true freshman at Texas A&M because I think it gives us a better chance to win than the senior left tackle that has started games before. I'm going to start a true freshman left guard at Texas A&M over a guy that started last year. Like, that is challenging everything. That brings competition to the room. And by the way, both those guys are out now. But at that point, that was a big surprise to us. And you could see that, like, boy, he says, you don't practice right, you don't play. Clearly, he replaced 2 starters with 2 young guys, and it's what he does.
I'm curious about the mental perception, both your thoughts on the team, but also kind of the fan base, because Ohio State's a favorite in this game.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think if you talk to a lot of Ohio State fans, they don't think that there's much of a chance that the Buckeyes lose this. Ohio State's on the other side of that, where they've lost the game as the big favorite in the national championship game. So what is the Notre Dame vibe, both with the team and kind of your read on the fan base?
I think it's different now than it was 3 weeks ago. I mean, after beating Georgia, the SEC champion, and that was kind of I mean, the reason Penn State was the harder one than Georgia is because they just played Georgia. Let's be fair. I thought that might be the reason they loses to Penn State. Penn State was coming off Boise. Notre Dame was coming off Georgia with 2 fewer days. Yeah. Who feels better going to a game like that? Right. Now that they've beaten them both, I just feel like Notre Dame's fan base is imbued with confidence, and they know Ohio State has been the best team or the better team most of this year. I don't think they believe that now. I know the team doesn't believe that now. Of course, they should not. Yeah. I think those last 2 games have given Notre Dame fans confidence. I think if you were to sit there and say, what's the most likely scenario? Win close, blowout. I mean, I feel like people, even Notre Dame fans, would say, like, well, it's going to be close win, Ohio State blowout, Notre Dame blowout. So maybe that's the acceptance of one team can get away from the other because there's just a galaxy of stars in Ohio State offense that Notre Dame doesn't possess. They have their galaxy of star is Jeremiah Love, and he's probably not Jeremiah Love. He's probably not ripping off a couple 60-yard runs. Yeah, he hasn't looked. He's just tough as nails. Yeah. When you look at this defense, and this has been a big topic, I wrote about it. I've read other people that have written about it. The man defense versus what Texas did in the zone defense and Jeremiah Smith and all this stuff. How do you expect Texas to try and defend this offense? Notre Dame, I don't think they will go too far from who they are. So we looked it up. We checked 54% man defense, highest in the country. Number 2 is Purdue. They play different man defense in West Lafayette. But so I think, if you're going to do something, maybe you're going down to 45% man defense. I think the real key is how they disguise it pre-snap. You have to make Will Howard see something he doesn't trust or see something wrong on occasion. Because, look, there's going to be, if you're going to do track efficiency in this game, play-by-play, Ohio State's going to have a better efficiency on their offense play-by-play than Notre Dame is. But this live to fight another down, 8-yard pass to Jeremiah Smith, it has to be an 8-yard pass. It can't be an 8-yard pass plus 17 more on the route. You have to get them in second. It's 2nd and 2. Ohio State misses. It's 3rd and 2. You win 3rd and 2. All of a sudden, you're like, we were moving. Why aren't we moving the ball anymore? That's what Notre Dame's defense has done really well. They drag you into it where it's if you haven't scored your touchdown, you're never getting in. That is that's the mantra of defense. Until you've scored your touchdown, you are not getting in this end zone. And I think they need to do that for Ohio State because there's going to be more yards gained by Ohio State in this game than Penn State and Georgia. The Georgia game was both of them were in that below 300 range, 346 range. Penn State, I think, started getting a little loose because of Katron Allen and Singleton. As I said, I really think it's the only time I've seen Notre Dame worn down this year. This is a different scenario. Notre Dame has 9 days. They shouldn't be worn down in this one at all. And with the 1 extra day, I don't think the 1 extra day matters too much. The one thing that matters a little, Notre Dame has an extra prep because they could have started prepping for Ohio State before. It's just the way you look at those things. Like it's kind of like Indiana. I heard Georgia prepping for Indiana or Notre Dame. They looked at Indiana for like a minute and said, "All right, let's start prepping for Notre Dame." So I think Notre Dame's been advanced prep for Ohio State for a while now. But it's the defense. Marcus Freeman did not respect Texas, is what you know. I'm just kidding. Yes, there's a lot of minions out there that can prepare for you. But no, I think it's a fascinating matchup because you have to play you have to be who you are. You've got to play some man. Just quickly for Ohio State fans, Leonard Moore, the freshman, the boundary. I don't expect them to move around too much. I tried to hint around this today, and it did not work at all at media day. But I don't expect them to flip. Like Leonard Moore is better than Christian Gray right now. Christian Gray came in the season better. Right. I don't think Moore is going to go to the field side to play follow Jeremiah Smith. I think they're just going to play football. But Leonard Moore on fades, back shoulder, down the sideline stuff. That's his MO. He's great at that, which would be a great match with Jeremiah Smith. Christian Gray, when you're hitting those crossing routes and stuff, he jumps slants, he jumps digs. But you can get Christian Gray on the stuff downfield. He's had a little trouble the last few weeks with the balls in the air. He gets very grabby, and he's grabbing the top shoulder, and that's very obvious as opposed to right here.
Yeah.
So I think they will attack Christian Gray down the field, and they'll attack Leonard Moore a little bit coming on those crossing routes. And we both think at Irish Illustrated, Tim Reese, that Ibuka's going to be the guy to stop Notre Dame because you probably don't double him the way he moves all over the field. So when they are looking to double and play zone, and I mean, what's he have? 17 catches in Notre Dame the last 2 years? He's like a pro player.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith's a future pro player. Ibuka's a pro. I couldn't believe Ibuka came back. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, a lot of people couldn't believe it. A lot of these guys came back, if we're being honest. Ibuka's going to be interesting because Carnell Tate just had this big game against Texas, kind of his breakout game.
Right.
Obviously, Jeremiah Smith, and he's done all season, but especially in the playoffs. And Ibuka's been consistently good.
Right.
But, maybe not jump off the page good. Now, if you're Notre Dame, you're scouting everybody, right? They'll know what he can do.
And Golden's gone against him twice. Right. He knows Ibuka, but it's still he's a crafty wide receiver.
Yeah. And I'll be interested. Obviously, Marvin Harrison is a different player than Jeremiah Smith.
Right.
How the defense changes for a guy like that with more physicality than Marvin did.
Yeah.
Because they did contain Marvin Harrison.
They did. And it was Benjamin Morrison a lot. Now, Morrison's out. He's out for a long time. And Leonard Moore is every time I say this, somebody looks at me crazy. He's better than Benjamin Morrison. He's more physical. He's more physical too. Now, if they had Benjamin Morrison and Leonard Moore and Christian Gray, they'd be better off than not having him. So, but he's a very physical, bigger corner. It's weird when you see Leonard Moore, you're like, that's Leonard Moore. Then you see him in pass, like, oh, that's Leonard Moore. So that's a great matchup with Jeremiah Smith in terms of physicality. I think actually Morrison would not be as physical. He's better off handling Marvin Harrison a little bit than Jeremiah Smith. He's got the physicality there.
Gotcha. Xavier Watts. When I've watched Notre Dame this year, just like if you watch Ohio State's defense, Caleb Downs, to me, they're similar players.
They're the two best safeties in the country.
I agree. What should fans expect to see from him?
He is a ball hawk. I mean, he's got 13 interceptions now in his last 24 games after having none. Because remember, he was a scout team wide receiver, a scout team linebacker.
Okay.
And then Notre Dame safety, and then he was Bronco Nagurski winner safety, and now Notre Dame's national championship or runner-up safety. Yeah. So he has had quite a career here. He's become much more physical this year. He does attack the line of scrimmage more. The first time I try to track every drive. And the first time I write down the best players on every drive. The first time all season I did not write down Xavier Watts' name was the Penn State game. I found it interesting. I think Tyler Warren got the best of him a little bit.
Sure. And he's done that to people.
Get the best of most people.
You saw against Ohio State earlier this year.
Watts is a ball hawk. Like, if there is one of those frustrating interceptions where Ohio State fans are like, what the hell just happened here? It is going to go to Xavier Watts' body somehow, where all of a sudden the ball's just there and you don't understand why. But then you realize he does it every week. Maybe that's why that ball goes there. So I love that matchup. And Downs, I mean, the tough thing for Notre Dame is Ohio State's secondary. Let's say Ohio State's 1 and Notre Dame's 2, the secondary, or whatever you want. Yeah. Ohio State's passing game, Notre Dame's passing game aren't the same. You can't fit them in the screen. So that it's Notre Dame's secondary can play great. Ohio State's secondary can just play good. And I think handle Notre Dame's passing game.
Okay. Let's get to that side of the ball because Riley Leonard, he'll be in the key to that passing game, but also his ability to run. And I think that's going to be a key because mobile quarterbacks have hurt Ohio State. They haven't seen a ton, but guys that have been athletic, a Drew Aller, who's not a mobile guy, but can move.
Surprised them running.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But Dylan Raiola, some of these guys, there's been space for quarterbacks to take advantage of some things. Obviously, they know going in, Riley Leonard will do some stuff, but so have other defenses, and it's been hard to stop.
Yeah, he is, and he's going to run 15 times in this game. I mean, they started out with that at A&M. I actually asked Freeman the question, can you – and then they had to do it against Illinois, which was crazy. They couldn't run him in the second half because he was hurt. And I was like, can you survive like this with Riley Leonard? He's like, oh, everything's fine. Then they stopped running Riley Leonard a little bit because obviously they could not survive. Well, he ran a ton against Georgia. He ran a ton against Penn State. This is not a necessity now. He's going to run a ton against Ohio. He's getting 15 carries. That's scramble, QB power, QB counter. He is tough to stop on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. If the line just stays, he's getting it. So Ohio State has to obviously start a new line of scrimmage, and that's when Riley Leonard gets stopped on. He's been stopped a couple times on 3rd and 4th down this year. Okay. I actually think the key to 3rd and 4th down in short yardage, because Marcus is going to go for it, is that they take a couple shots. Okay. My theory is when you're playing Ohio State and it's 4th and 1 field, you just want to maintain possession. You get it. You still have to go 49 yards to score on Ohio State's defense. And it's not easy to do. Sometimes you have 4th and 1 and Ohio State wants that stop. This is the time. They haven't shown it all year. This is the time to take one shot where trust your defense. We don't get it. It's 4th and 1. Let's go for 7, not 1. When you're an underdog and the other team has more talent, I think that's when you have to pull that out. Hasn't happened this year. I'm interested to see if they do it in this game.
Jeremiah Love, you talked about him earlier. I know he's been banged up.
Yeah.
What do you expect health-wise and what he'll be able to do?
Probably healthier than the Penn State game because that was a 6.5-day turnaround. And he had been injured because he got hurt in the Georgia game in the second half after kind of tweaking it in the Indiana game and originally hurting it against USC. So Penn State's the first one he got through without being injured.
Okay.
That was a 6.5-day turnaround. I thought he might not play other than go do some. He's a good lead blocker. I thought he might run some lead blocks for Leonard. His effort was incredible. He's just not the guy that breaks off 60-yard runs right now. He says he's 100%. Obviously, he's not 100%. He's a sprained MCL.
Sure.
But I expect him to get 12 carries as long as he doesn't take another tweak, and they will be those important rusher where you need to get something going. The real key to this game is that he did not have a good day against Penn State. It was Jadarian Price.
That's where I was going to go next.
He had a very good year. He is a home run hitter more than he's a consistent runner, but he's a guy that's level and it takes that second step. It's NFL speed. It's even Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame defenders. They're not. He is the type of guy that can break it against them. I think they need that out of him. But the problem is he ends up with this pitter-patter little feet thing going once in a while. He's 28 carries in the playoffs. They play good run defense is all, even though you get a good run defense. 16 of them were stuffed. You can't have that against Ohio State because you can't keep him on the field if he's going to do that against Ohio State. So he has to have a good start to the game, and then they can kind of take some pressure off of Love.
The offensive line, you touched on the injuries. What do you expect it to look like, and how do you expect it to play out in a game like this?
I talked to Rocco Spindler today. He injured his ankle against IU, sat out the second half. He re-injured it on the play you saw where he just got pancaked.
Yeah.
He was out again. He said that he didn't say I couldn't play if it was 6-day turnaround like it was from Georgia, but he said that a couple days has been a really big help. So I expect him to play. I mean, how long does that go? I think he plays until he's injured. Problem is Ohio State's interior is going to be quicker than him anyway, and if you're taking away any of that power on the right side, they're going to have a major advantage over him. I still think Jagusa, who came in at right guard, he was, just for people listening, he was supposed to be the starting left tackle this season.
I remember this.
He tore a pectoral muscle early in camp. I think he's going to start at left tackle after coming in at right guard. It sounds weird, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
But he was supposed to be the starting left tackle.
Ohio State's moved guys around all year, so nothing sounds that weird.
Billy Schroff has been there for a while. Pat Coogan's the backup center, but now he's been the starter for 10 weeks. He's the starter now. I think it will be Rocco Spindler until he re-injures it or can't go, because Sam Pendleton, the backup, started 6 games this year at left guard. So now he's the backup center and backup right guard. I think he'll be there. And the right tackle, Emil Wagner, was there all year. And Emil Wagner got – this is his 16th start now? Yeah, 16th career start. He got some baptism by fire last week in 15 with Abdul Carter. So as good as Ohio State's pass rushers are, at least there's that different weirdness of Abdul Carter's quick twitch.
He's nuts.
He's something else.
If there is a receiver that can go off in this game, who is it?
I mean, it's probably the tight end that went off last year, Mitchell Evans.
Okay,
but unfortunately for Notre
Dame fans,
I
should say pass catcher.
Unfortunately for Notre Dame fans, Jim Knowles knows how about Mitchell Evans at this point.
Yeah.
So we joked he did the same thing to Duke 1 week later, Ohio State, and that was Mike Elko. It was a coordinator too. We're like, he's not doing anything this game because Mike Elko's waiting on that. So I think Jim Knowles will have a plan to take Mitchell Evans out of it a little bit. It would be, all year long, we thought Jaden Greathouse was going to have the game we had against Penn State every single week because the coaches kept talking about him, and we just thought it was coming. So I would say Greathouse. The other guy is Jordan Faison's tough as nails slot type thing. But you say go off. Going off for me would be the 3 guys I just mentioned. 12 catches, the 3 of them. 12 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown. That allows Notre Dame's Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love, and Riley Leonard to win it. So you can see where at any type of score level. I think Notre Dame has to win the game in the 20s. Yeah. They're not getting if they're getting in the 30s, it's because Ohio State in the 50s. So you need to, going off at Notre Dame at wide receiver this year, that was by far the best year. Best game this season was Greathouse. That was the most catches, the most yards by a Notre Dame player this year against Penn State.
Okay.
So I don't see a go off. But if those 3 guys contribute, then the passing game gets a lot better.
Gotcha. You talked about Freeman and special teams. What should people expect on that?
So this is amazing. This has been the most fun thing for the year for Notre Dame because they faked 4 punts for touch. They faked 4 punts and got them. The 5th one was a incredible one against Virginia callback. I don't know if Ohio State fans saw this, but the one for the touchdown where you've never seen that play before.
We were sitting in the Wrigley Field press box because Ohio State had just played Northwestern, and I remember watching that.
Yeah, it's incredible. They faked a field goal where they snuck Tyler Buckner on the field.
Yeah.
It's harder to do now because they have their names on the back of their jerseys. He wears the same number as the holder, which is about the cheapest thing of all time. They got him on the field, and he pulled that off. They put Buckner on the field against USC from their own 20-yard line through to Mitchell Evans. They faked reverses on 2 kickoffs. Of course, Jaden Harrison had the big one. 98 yards against Georgia, and that was a big deal because they brought him there to be a kick returner too. He had 2 kickoff return touchdowns the year before for Marshall. It was like, let's get this guy. He's the best. Well, he had done nothing on kick returns because it's kind of been vetoed from the game, I suppose, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Hit a big one. They blocked 4 or 5 kicks. They are crazy. They're crazy on special teams. I think Ohio State fans probably watch 11 on, 11 off, 11 on move against Georgia.
Yeah.
You're looking at it and you're like, I'm not surprised anymore what they're doing. I mean, before that game, Georgia's punter had never punted because their punter got injured. So they were literally just jumping 10 guys, 8 guys up front were just switching on every punt. They ran into the punter the first 2 punts.
I was going to say, was it that game?
They didn't care about running the punter. It's like they are looking for every inch they can get on special teams, and they will have something.
Okay.
In this game, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah.
Someday someone's going to burn them. I've always thought a team is going to fake a punt on Notre Dame because they're so aggressive. But obviously on film, they must be a little safer than I think they are. But it's Bryce Young's the one to watch for that. It's Bryant Young's son. He's 6'7", 260. He's blocked a couple punts this year. But he influences more. Like, in other words, he's just about to block it. They probably influenced about 6 punts this year. It's been a fun year because, boy, Brian Kelly did not have these special teams. So this is a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, well, I don't think Ohio State will be doing much special team stuff. It's been better than the last couple of years, still not good. Last thing I want to ask you about, Lorenzo Styles Jr.
Yes.
When he was at Notre Dame, he was a wide receiver. He has worked his way into the cornerback rotation a little bit, playing more recently.
He made a big play against Texas, right?
He did, yeah. Had a good pass breakup. Was on the field on one of those goal line stand plays late against Texas as well. When you see a guy who you covered playing wide receiver for 2 years, had a huge play against Ohio State, at Ohio Stadium, now playing defense for the team in the national championship, just what goes through your mind?
I mean, I'm impressed for him because when he kind of fell out of the rotation, and I mean, let's be fair, Notre Dame's wide receiver rotation isn't Ohio State's rotation. Yeah. So when Lorenzo Styles fell out, I'm like, what's wrong with his career arc? Because he's a pretty explosive player. He did not have a very good second year. He had a good first year. Yeah. He did not have a good second year. And at one point, we were at a spring practice, and he was at corner. Mm-hmm. Everybody went nuts reporting it. Yeah, but Notre Dame, that was what Notre Dame started getting really good at corner.
This was right before he transferred.
Yes, it was. I mean, they had Benjamin Morrison and Cam Hart. Cam Hart already in the NFL. Benjamin Morrison going to the NFL. These guys with Christian Gray, like they were all on the team. You're like, where's the path to the field here? And they tried to play it down and everything, but they were obviously trying it. Yeah. But I mean, it's worked out great for him. Yeah. There's another Styles that's pretty good on the team too. So, yes. But it's good to see because he was always a really well-spoken, nice kid. Kind of. It was hard to interview him when you're looking at not like. 7th in the depth chart. Right. He thinks that, but we are kind of looking at it like you're kind of 7th on the depth chart right now. But no, he took it all well, and not a huge surprise transfer, but I would say a huge surprise that he's making an impact. Yeah, and it hasn't been a huge impact. He didn't go to Toledo; he's at Ohio State making an impact. So I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah, he's been fun. I've enjoyed covering him. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
We're all busy, so I appreciate your time.
I really do. So
yeah, if you guys haven't, they've been doing great stuff over at Irish Illustrated. Check them out for the Notre Dame side of things. Again, appreciate your time.
Don't go to the bathroom during special teams for Notre Dame. I found that out about week 3. So, all right, thanks a lot.
Appreciate
man.
it. I'll see you later. Yeah. We are not done yet. We're going to talk more Buckeyes. We've got another guest, Dave Biddle, who's going to join us in just a second. As we here he is. Thanks, Tim.
I got a chance to
look at this.
I got to find a chance to meet Tim in person.
Yeah, you guys were on
Tim
some
and
stuff
I,
together?
we've been on videos together, but we've never met in person. It's weird. I can see these people that you do. It's like the pandemic changed everything. It's like you do video hits with people. You feel like you know them, and then you meet them in person. It's crazy.
Our Oregon guys, when we were out at the Rose Bowl, I had worked with them, done this podcast with them for the game in Columbus. Briefly met them in Columbus, and the press just went over and said hi. But actually got to hang out with Eric and some of those guys. A lot of fun. Really good to get to know other guys who are doing the same thing we are.
That's the thing.
The country.
That's the thing. Oregon guys. We Oklahoma when we had the home and home.
We had a lot of fun with Joe.
That's the thing. If you guys don't know, when we we sleep with the enemy. No. It's not literally, not literally, but no, we're friends with guys who cover other teams.
Yeah. And why not?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this.
All right.
I'm going to start you off with the toughest question.
Okay.
Your confidence level here today that on Monday night it will be scarlet and gray confetti.
I always go 1 through 10 on this. So I'm at about I'm at about like an 8, and I almost want to say 9. Like I'm about an 8.5. Let's go 8.5. I think Ohio State, in my opinion, has about an 85% chance of winning this game. Where's the 15% coming for Notre Dame? If Ohio State loses the turnover battle, if Ohio State loses the special teams battle, and they can't. The defense, Ohio State's defense is phenomenal, but Notre Dame's really good on third down. So if Notre Dame is good on third down, Notre Dame wins the turnover battle, Notre Dame wins the special teams battle. This will be a game in the fourth quarter. If those things don't happen, I don't see a path to victory for them because they're a really good team. They're tough, and I think it's really cool that it's Ohio State and Notre Dame just playing for the national championship, especially with James Laurinaitis and Marcus Freeman going against each other. They played in 2 national championship games together at Ohio State as starting linebackers.
Don't talk about the results of those games.
They're best friends. One of them now is going to win their first national championship ever against the other.
Yeah.
So this Notre Dame team, their defense is really good. Their offense, even if it was completely healthy, I would think, okay, this is not a good matchup, the way this defense is playing for Ohio State. But they're banged up. Guys are going to play. Like Riley Leonard's tough. Jeremiah Love is tough as heck. Those guys are going to play. I know their O-line's banged up, but I just think it's going to be hard to move the ball against this Ohio State defense and the future Oklahoma defensive coordinator. I'm kidding.
There were some questions about that earlier.
I'm kidding. No. As you said, and I posted this to our board, the Jim Knowles stuff, it's okay, maybe there's some legs to it, but you better be careful, hitching your wagon to Brent Venable. He has one more bad year in Oklahoma. He'll be out the door.
Yeah. Here's what I will say about that, because I did see we got some questions. I was going to bring that up at the end. If you're Jim Knowles, now the thinking behind all this is his girlfriend, I guess, lives in Oklahoma City, and so there is some maybe pull down there, but Jim Knowles is making a lot of money. I don't know why he couldn't. I don't know the situation, but I imagine that said girlfriend can get to Columbus pretty frequently.
He makes $2 million a year, and he'll make more now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I think Oklahoma may come in with an offer after this game. If you're Ohio State, you can match or exceed that. Ohio State has more money to offer Jim Knowles. I'll
get Brian Schottenstein on the phone right now. I'll call Brian right now and say, hey, we got to keep our DC. He'll be like, I'll take care of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I do think there is something to it. There's smoke, but I don't think, unless Jim Knowles decides, hey, I'd rather be down there. Money doesn't matter. Money's not an object here. I don't think he's leaving Ohio State, especially coming off of this. Now he has a new challenge of kind of rebuilding this defense with all the guys that are going to leave.
It's just going to be a legend. No matter what happens next year, next year will be fun. If they win the national championship, they're legends for life. We all know that. Think about the 2002 team. You guys love Mark D'Antonio, not when he was coaching against Ohio State, he was at Michigan State. You guys love Mark D'Antonio. Why? Because he was the defensive coordinator when they won the national championship. Now, Tom Herman burned some bridges, which Dino never did. So I know you guys probably didn't love Tom Herman. I don't think they win that national championship 10 years ago without Tom Herman as OC. So, man. I mean, if for some reason he does make the bad decision to leave Ohio State for Oklahoma, I don't think he will. And I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma's program. It's Brent Venables. It's I think he's a good defensive coordinator and is not a good head coach. So that would be a weird move. But let's say Knowles goes out with a national championship, the number 1 defense in the country, and goes to Oklahoma. He's a legend in Columbus forever.
Yeah, and I think if that were to happen, right, I think he will find the next guy. I mean, you look at these hirings recently, bringing in a guy like Carlos Loughlin, bringing Chip Kelly from being a head coach. Obviously, there was some connections there ahead of time, but
minor connections, mentor.
Right. Just knowing each other since Ryan Day was born.
Yeah, no big deal.
But anyway, let's get back to the game.
Laurinaitis is another one, though.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, look what Laurinaitis is doing. Look at Cody Simon. I know that it wasn't new this year, but this is his first year as full-time linebackers coach. He really ran the linebacker room last year, as you know. But look what he's doing with Cody. And give most of the respect to Cody Simon for working his butt off. And fifth-year senior has always been a leader and a tough guy, and I've always liked Cody Simon. He's playing some of the best middle linebacker that I've seen at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
And I wouldn't have said that at the beginning of the season.
No.
He was good.
Right. He's just consistently getting better and better and better. Yep.
Yeah, he's worked his way into a real NFL linebacker. By the way, cheers.
Cheers.
I meant to do that off the top. I poured mine in a cup because I'm silly. Dave's drinking Sam Adams here. All right. You were talking about your confidence in this game.
Yeah.
Any worry about too confident? I don't think this team is too – I think they know with all the losses they've taken with the – for lack of a better term, the shit they've heard.
Yeah.
Ryan Day, the players, all this, the Michigan loss. I don't think they're going to walk in there thinking they've won it, but A lot of people talking like we're talking right now.
That's the thing. And we did like a lot of hits yesterday, videos, for the parent company. And I got into that. They said, what are some keys to victory? And I named, obviously, the offensive line has to hold up. They played really well in the college football playoff, but this is a really good Notre Dame front. They mix things up. Al Golden's a great defensive coordinator. And Marcus is obviously a defensive guy. So I was like, obviously, offensive line, can they hold up for the fourth game in a row? They played well. But the other thing that I point to, don't drink the rat poison. Exactly what you're saying. Don't drink the rat poison, as Nick Saban said, because Ohio State's played with an edge in all of these games. They had to go. They were favored by 7 over Tennessee. You would have thought they were underdog the way they came out there because everybody thought, Ohio State is in big trouble here, and they smoked Tennessee. But they had that underdog mentality. They're ticked off. They got to the Rose Bowl. They were actually favored in the Rose Bowl, right?
Yep.
Slight favorites, but favorites. But they still had that underdog mentality, and they had already lost to Oregon, and we know what happened. 34-0 before you could blink. I mean, that was just a bludgeoning. So one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in Ohio State football. Then they play Texas. They're favored by 7, 6, 5.5, something like that.
I don't know where.
But they're playing Texas in Texas. I think that helped them. That obviously wasn't a blowout like the first 2 games. But I'm glad it wasn't, because we would have had the Jack Sawyer. The Jack Sawyer would have been like as important as it was. So can they keep that mentality? Because Notre Dame is a tough team. They're not going to go away. If they get down, they're going to keep coming. And, I think it's a great point. Ohio State has to come into this. They have to find a way. This is going to be really tough because now they're not playing Notre Dame in South Bend. They didn't lose to Notre Dame earlier this year.
Right.
Everybody's telling them how great they are. Can they keep that same mentality they've had the first 3 games? I'm a huge believer in the mental side of sports. Huge. I used to laugh when I was a kid when coaches would tell us sports is 90% mental and 10% physical. I don't think it's necessarily 90-10. I'm pretty sure if I was mentally strong, I could beat LeBron at basketball. But I used to laugh at it. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Sports are 90% mental and 10% physical. Probably not 90-10, but mental side of sports is huge. So can Ohio State have that mindset that they've had? They do. They come in with that mindset. They're aggressive, tough, just playing bleep to the wall. You can say balls to the wall.
I said earlier.
You can say balls to the wall. Play balls to the wall. I think Notre Dame's in trouble. If they come out there kind of tentative, we got this, not good.
Yeah. Question here from Jeff Beaver I wanted to bring up. We've talked about this in previous games. If Ohio State wins the coin toss, should they take the ball?
Yes. See, I hope that I hope Notre Dame wins the toss, because it's coaches are even if they kind of want to take the ball, they're kind of almost afraid to, because every coach
middle age is this term
middle age
coming up.
Right. And I used to think that was an important thing, but it's almost overblown now, man. Ohio State hasn't been good in the middle age, and during the playoffs, and look where they're at. So, and by the way, if Ohio State takes the ball and they don't score right away, I mean, worst case scenario, then Ohio State's defense is put on the field to start the second half. The best defense in the country against what I think is a limited Notre Dame offense. I'm okay with that. And if Ohio State does get a lead early, it could be lights out. If they get up 2 scores early.
Yeah, because then you get the pass rushers going, like we saw against Oregon, we saw against Tennessee, and that's tough to stop when they can just pin their ears back. If there is a somewhat surprising X factor in this game, let's go both sides of the ball. Who would it be, offense, defense, in your mind?
I guess it wouldn't be a surprise. Riley Leonard's a really good runner. Tough, bigger than I think people think.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. He's about the same size as Will, right?
Yeah, close.
But a little more athletic.
Yeah.
And Will hasn't run much this year. I think that might be an X factor for Ohio State. We haven't seen Will run a lot, but he's had key runs. He's had 7 touchdowns. He had that 4th and 2. So he's obviously had some. And rushing stats are so weird in college because they had sacks. NFL doesn't do it like that. They need to reassess that. But I just think that the QB run game is going to be huge. Turnover battle. Dan Rubin has talked about this a ton. If Ohio State does not turn the ball over, they're not losing this game. And he said it throughout the playoffs. If they don't turn the ball over, they're not losing the game. If they turn it over once, I still think they're winning. If they turn it over twice, that's why I think things could get sticky, especially if Notre Dame doesn't have any. If Notre Dame has a 2 turnover advantage, that's their path to victory right there. Yes.
Yeah, I think if we're talking kind of off the wall guy, Sonny Styles could be, especially given that Riley Leonard factor.
Yeah.
A guy who could put some hits. Riley Leonard's taken a lot of hits this year. Tim was just talking about him being banged up against Northern Illinois, and obviously that was really early on in the season. But that's the danger of having a running quarterback like that is.
He
And
was banged up then.
yeah, he said his left shoulder it clearly wasn't right in the second half of that game. But when you have a guy like that, and that's probably why Ohio State hasn't run Will Howard as much, is to avoid, we haven't needed it, right, if you're Ohio State.
Right.
So, but a guy like Sonny Styles who can really bring those hits, bring the foot, that could be, I'm not saying necessarily knock Riley Leonard out of the game, but like, I think he could be a big factor. And I've been critical of Sonny Styles this year. I think he's still vulnerable in pass coverage. Look, it's his first year playing linebacker, so I get it.
Yeah.
But this could be a game that suits him. And a lot of these guys, Cody Simon as well, the defensive line, Caleb Downs has been great in run stopping. Yeah. And I think they're going to have to stop the quarterback run, and they haven't been great at that this year.
They haven't. Even think back to the Marshall game. That quarterback wasn't even a good rushing quarterback, but early in the game, he was getting some chunk yardage on Q runs, and a lot of them were called Q runs. No, of course, Ohio State knocked him out of the game. That's the danger. If you run your quarterback too much, this Ohio State defense will maybe knock your quarterback out of the game, like probably if you run too much. So, but Riley Leonard's a big, physical, tough, athletic guy, though. So he's not, like Dylan Gabriel, they didn't knock him out of the game, but you could tell, like in the first quarter, like he was seeing ghosts because they were hitting the crap out of him. And he's kind of a little guy compared to Riley Leonard. Yeah. So easier said than done. But I just think if you run your quarterback too much against this defense, Ohio State, I mean, they keep getting better and better and better. They have the best safety tandem in the country. Lathan Ransom has the best grade of any player in the country against the run, according to PFF. So I love PFF grades when they're favorable. People are like, well, I don't really trust PFF. Oh, he's the best in the country. I love PFF.
Yeah, those are good.
And I like that. So, yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. This maybe I'm wrong. I think it's gonna be really, really hard for Notre Dame to move the ball against this defense.
Well, and Tim was just talking about Notre Dame's special teams and they fake punts. They come after you. They block punts this year.
That play against Georgia was awesome.
Yes, we know the Ohio State special teams better than in the last couple of years. Still not great.
Low bar.
Yes, definitely. Is that an area that may be of concern?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I said like when I first came on, I don't know, I've done so many hits. I can't remember what I said 5 minutes ago. Yeah, that is a concern. Like turnovers, Notre Dame's path is winning the turnover battle, winning the special teams battle. Yeah. They do those two things. This will be a game in the fourth quarter. If Ohio State can at least get a stalemate in special teams, stalemate in turnovers, I don't see Notre Dame winning this game. But yeah, you're right. Ohio State's special teams have improved. I think even in the playoffs they've been. Yeah, they weren't good in the Michigan game. Oh, shit, did I just sorry. By the way, I love the national narrative. People don't understand the pulse of Buckeye Nation. I've heard people have even asked me on some of the hits I did yesterday, like and I've heard like players being asked this, and like heard this conversation on national like TV shows. Like, all right, if Ryan Day wins the national championship, will Ohio State fans forgive him for being 1-4 against Michigan? I'm like, are you crazy? Like, Ohio State fans would trade that a million times out of a million. Would you rather be 4-1 against Michigan and have the national championship? Of course you would. Would you trade being 4-1 against Michigan and not winning the national championship? No. You take that national championship every time. National championship banners hang forever. And I can almost see it 2024, even though we're in 2025. I can almost see it in the horseshoe now. They have to finish the deal. So Ryan Day will be a legend in Columbus forever if he wins this game. Despite, and it's hilarious when people ask about that. Like, will Buckeye fans forgive him if he wins the national championship? Yeah, they will.
It's funny. We were just over at Ohio State's practice, which was one of the most worthless things I've ever covered because we didn't even see period one. I
tried to talk you out of it.
You did. I thought someone had to be there in case something happened.
I didn't think so.
The conversation came up because Gene Smith is here. Gene Smith went to Notre Dame, obviously the Ohio State athletic director for a long time, and we were talking with Jerry Amick, the SAD, about who is Gene cheering for in this, and he said Ohio State, and we're like, well, of course that's what he's going to tell you, but someone made the point, if Ohio State wins this, he will have hired 2 national championship coaches, and that goes on his legacy. And it's just crazy to me. I was thinking about this on the bus back, like the narrative around Ryan Day coming out of that Oregon game. You can't win the big game. Even Jim Knowles, like the defense can't get stops in the fourth quarter. I mean, these were real things, right? The defense hadn't gotten stops in the fourth quarter. And then what's happened now?
In the Michigan game.
And that, obviously.
I mean, I've never seen a turnaround. Can you think of anything like this in sports? We've seen that like year to year where a coach looks like, okay, this is his last year, but it was like a year later, then he gets everything together. I can't think of any parallel in sport where like a month and a half after, would you say a large portion of the fan base, some of the fan base went and fired?
Yeah, I mean, at least a loud portion of the fan base.
Okay. Now he's on the precipice of winning the national championship a month and a half later. I've never seen anything like that in sport. Am I leaving something out?
Yeah.
I am. I know our chat's going to let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this in sports. I'm so happy for Randy. As you know, he's a good guy, a good man. And, like, if he wins this championship, as I said earlier, he's a legend in Columbus forever. I don't even care about the Michigan record. I mean, I care.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I care. You guys know I care. But, like, give me that natty and that 1-4 record over the 4-1 no natty.
Well, and here's the thing. You still have the chance to improve that Michigan record, right?
Yeah.
Like, you win this, you build momentum, recruiting, it helps everything. You go into next year, they've got to pass trying to prove themselves tough, but I think this helps, right?
Yes.
You're the national champions.
You win the national championship, you're probably not weak.
Right.
You're probably not soft.
No. And, I mean, I think next year, yes, you have to go to Ann Arbor. The team is going to look very different with so many seniors leaving.
Yeah.
And then we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But if you won the national championship, I think Ryan Day can kind of get that mental block of, like, we have to do it this way and just play. You know, that will take so much off his shoulders. And there's still pressure. There's pressure being the Ohio State head coach. I mean, Urban won. Urban still felt the pressure, and he was undefeated against Michigan. So it will help.
True.
But I think it will. You can certainly change that narrative, that part of the narrative, especially if you have a national title ring that you can walk around with.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Dave, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll see you
Thanks,
in a little bit.
guys.
All right. There are a couple questions I saw in here that I wanted to try and address after we had Dave and Tim on. And again, thanks to both of them. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but Irish Illustrated, our 247 Sports Notre Dame site, does good stuff. So if you're looking for more from that side of things, go over there and look at, I think both Tims do a good job. And I did a question exchange with Tim this week. Ours was posted on Bucknuts a couple days ago if you want to check that out. And then I believe Tim posted the one I did with him yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, but it should be up there. So let's see. There were a couple questions here. Noticed. I may have hit on them. Talked about Jim Knowles. I see that one. This is a good question from Thomas L. Hughes. Will they hide Downs and let him spy on Leonard? I think looking early on to see who is playing, because we'll have to do a quarterback spy, no doubt about it. I think seeing who that is, because they've tried JT Tuimoloau and crazy athletic, but maybe not quite the speed necessary against a guy earlier in the year like Nico Ilamilava, I probably said that wrong, didn't quite have the speed. Now, Riley Leonard is a different type of athlete, but certainly Downs, I think probably you want to free him up to be able to kind of roam, but could they do a Sonny Styles kind of spy in there? Maybe even a Lathan Ransom. Dave was just talking about how good he's been against the run. So that's something I'm going to keep an eye on early in the game, but I want Downs freed to make those kind of plays he's made. I think back to the Oregon game and how he was flying around the field, breaking up passes, making tackles. I don't necessarily limit him to just spying Riley Leonard in this game. Bill Baldwin said, do you think our plan is to throw first to set up the run? So, it's easy to say that, right? And obviously in the Tennessee game and the Oregon game, they were able to do that. But against Texas, I think the game plan was similar offensively, but Texas took some of that away, some of their zone defense and things like that. So I think it's easier said than done, depending on what defense does. But yes, I think Ohio State knows that has to be the attack, especially coming out of that Michigan game. You have to use your weapons on the outside, open things up. And as Tim was talking about, these Notre Dame corners are no joke. They will give Ohio State receivers maybe more of a matchup issue than we've seen all year in terms of the collective secondary. But I do think Ohio State can still win some matchups there, open things up, and kind of get things going. And then you can start to hit some run as you pull them out. And then Tarko said, how aggressive will our defense be? Look, I think Jim Knowles has shown he's willing to be aggressive. He got burned for it against Texas on, I think it was the second Texas touchdown, the one where Sonny Styles was in coverage on the running back on the wheel route. He brought pressure, and sometimes when you bring pressure, you get burned. So it's about hitting it at the right time. I think Jim found a good balance at that throughout the season. And yes, I do think the Buckeye defense will be aggressive. And then I like this question from Thomas Hughes again. Will the SEC officiating crew call the game fair? You think back to that Clemson game that I'm still baffled by some of those calls. You would hope so, right? Like, there's no SEC team in this game. Not that there was an SEC team in that game, but Clemson kind of in the South. So yeah, I mean, I think you hope that the referees go out there. Now, I do think that you look at the numbers, SEC crews have called more penalties than what Ohio State saw in the Big Ten. I think more than any other league in the country. So I could see some flags, and this is probably going to work both ways, more flags than maybe we've seen throughout some of these other playoff games, even some in the regular season. So, you never want the officiating to make this about them, but certainly something that could come up. All right, we're going to wrap up the same way I try and do it every week during the season with what you will be reading. I guess it's Tuesday morning after the national championship game. I can't keep days straight. I was talking with one of the Ohio State coaches at Media Day today about that, just like, what day of the week is it? I don't know. These games have been all over the place, but I'm going to keep it simple with this one. Buckeyes win national championship. I think that's the headline Tuesday morning. I think Buckeye fans are going to enjoy this one. I haven't come up with a score prediction yet, but we will have our roundtable on Bucknuts tomorrow. Lots of good stuff already on the site. If you haven't been keeping up with it throughout the week, please go over and check that out. We've done a lot of stuff. We will have even more today, tomorrow, and then heading into Monday for the national championship game. This will be the first national championship game I have covered in 10-ish years I've been doing this. I didn't get to go to 14. 2020 was COVID, and we only sent Steve Hellwagon. So I'm pretty excited. I assume you guys are excited as well. The one thing, as Dave and I talked about, that just the overconfidence. And I don't think that's going to be an issue with this team. I think they will be able to handle their business. I think they are the more talented team, and I think that generally plays out. But, you think back to 2002 and the way Miami walked in there thinking they'd already won. Now, they were the defending national champions. And then on the flip side, 2006, Ohio State goes in thinking they've already won after an undefeated season. I think these Buckeyes have been through too much on the negative side of things, not only this season, but throughout their career, to allow that to start to creep in. But you just never know with human nature. And these guys hear these same things that everyone else does. But I still think it will be, as I said to Dave earlier, scarlet and gray confetti falling on Monday night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Thank you guys for tuning into this for another episode of Bucknuts Happy Hour. Thanks to Tim O'Malley from our Notre Dame site, Dave Biddle for joining me. As I said before, we'll have plenty more coverage going on these next couple days up until the game, and then obviously after the game, win or lose. But let's hope they get the dub, right? Anyway, guys, cheers and thanks again.